Introduction. How the God community relates to one another. This section follows the outline in the model above, is on the west side of the cycle, the way that the God-affected community deals with other people, with each other and with outsiders. We have looked at the way people think, the character of God, and how we interact with His text. And this part is subdivided into two groups, in principles and relationships. Principles. If you have encountered God, how to interact with others who have also encountered God. We're not reinventing the wheel. We could just as easily leave it to love your neighbor as yourself, but then there wouldn't be anything else to share. Or maybe these are just some practical ways to practice love, a clear path when the road to loving people may be difficult to find. So see these as some ideas, some suggestions on how they might help. Each of us are born and we grow, and as we grow, we gain a desire to control not only ourselves but our environment around us. And it extends to others around us. We all have our own little kingdoms, don't we? And these little kingdoms are in conflict. It's like life is a game, and we're all playing on the same field, but we're playing different games. The game parable can go in many different directions. One of them is to think about the craziness that it would be if you had a football, basketball, soccer ball all into the same field and everybody was trying to play their game without playing the one game. How crazy would that be? Our pursuit of God is not just about the end game. It's not just about the rules. It's not like a manual of instructions. It's not just about a book, it's about a person. It's about relationships. God is not just an official, a judge, or a referee. And the Bible as a life manual is not just for emergency use only. It's not just for when something goes wrong. There's also a disconnect. If it's a manual, you're not very emotionally invested in manuals, are you? But with the Bible, we have a wild, uncensored, passionate account of people experiencing the living God. With the Lord, the kingdom rule is here and now. It's about the relationship. It's about giving up your own personal kingdom so the one true king can reign. I'd rather go that way, wouldn't you? It's not a perfect parable, but it does suggest that we are to be players on the field and not spectators. So far, we've looked at a framework of seeing that the playing field of religion and the world are concurrent games. There are competing goals, there's competing rules, and the game that Jesus runs is the game of the kingdom. It's the real game. And there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of fans for the other side. There's a lot of confusion on the field. But the only way to win is to play the right game. And the only game going is love. All right, here's a break. Communication models. We're tracking down some good tools to be able to relate to other people. Here's a model with a fuzzy twist based upon the basic communication model. The exact percentages are not as important as the principle that a smaller percentage of our spoken words matter as much as the nonverbal. body language, tone, and inflections. So what does this have to do with Bible discussion? With not only the Bible as text, but discussions that are had by people who discuss the Bible, there's always more to it than words that are spoken. If this principle is true for life, then it is also true for Bible discussions. There is no free pass for saying the correct things with an attitude which does not glorify God with the fruit of the Spirit. This first model shows what I call fuzzy communication, a discussion that you would have with another God believer. You have what you talk about, but then on the outside of the discussion, you have things that you're just not going to talk about. And outside of discussion, you also have your attitude, your tones, your relationship habits, and you also have a lot of background that'll never be expressed or spoken about. What happened to you in the past, and just the things that are going to be permanently outside the boundaries of your discussion. I like visuals. Let's do another one. This one shows the framework comparison. We carry on our communication with one another with foundational assumptions, like the background in the previous model. This suggestive model compares truth and love. Now, the two are not mutually exclusive, and they were chosen because they're not. We're fully aware of Ephesians 4:15. Speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become, in every respect, the mature body of Him who is the head, that is, the Christ. This is why these models are included with the fuzzy discussion. Fuzzy was identified in the first section, and we are now just getting around to applying it. To have discussions with other people who have encountered God, we should have both truth and love. It's like the marriage metaphor when you try to put numbers on something that should be left to non-numeric evaluation. A husband and wife are in a partnership, 50-50, right? But it's not always 50-50. Sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 10-90. This is why this is in the fuzzy discussion, because circumstances sometimes call for a different weighted value. Everybody's got to be willing to give 100%. Now, I'm not trying to make a religion out of this. This is just an idea that may be helpful. If it's not, leave it alone, like C.S. Lewis said. But let's examine these two principles. The truth relies upon facts, correct? So whatever the points we have in our argument and discussion, the points have to support whatever idea that we are putting across as being the truth. And whatever particulars we end up discussing are going to be upheld by the points. Now, love is a little bit different, because love is not always expressed. It's not always part of the overt discussion. Love is often right there in the background. So this is why you speak the truth with the mechanism of love, with the framework, the background of having love there. Because love covers a multitude of points. What love does is it inspires the principles that will continue throughout the conversations, withstand the stresses of disagreements. The relationship is founded in love instead of on propositions that can be proven by points. And that's what this framework comparison is all about. There are also other functional models that can be suggested, and I'm going to keep it on the note card that it was created right there. This model, like the first in this section, represents the noise of discussion. We only have so much time and so many words and so many resources to get down to what is most important. So what's the core of our discussion? Should we ask the Lord, consult the scriptures, or are the discussion leaders the ones who are driving the issues to discuss? Are we using our human reasoning to say what's important? Once the discussion is over, what is going to be done as a point of action? Are these points of action themselves noisy, or are they truly critical? As the napkin scribble represents, simply having a conversation is a good place to start. Prayer is always on the table. even though a publicly shared prayer may also be subject to these models. The mission of God, Missio Dei, is important to remain in the core, regardless of where we take our discussions. This model is a pointer to the ideal behind 2 or 3 gathered in my name, at a section that we'll be dealing with pretty soon. Putting God in the center of discussion will do a lot of the answering of all these questions above. By 2 or 3 agreeing on what is important to fill our time with, to put our energy into, we'll likely cut away the noise and begin to hone conversation into a more God-centered core.